G'day everyone, and for those who've come in late, you're listening to Expand the Phantom podcast.
He washed ashore the sole survivor of a shipwreck, and upon the skull of the man who killed his dad, he said, "I'm mad, I must eradicate piracy, injustice and cruelty, and all my sons will follow me, so evildoers will believe that this man cannot die." The Phantom, the ghost who walks. The Phantom, enemies beware, the Phantom's always there, but you won't mind the Phantom.
Hello, we are the Chronicle Chamber team, and this is Expand the Phantom podcast. Our website is chroniclechamber.com, and you can contact us via our email, which is chroniclechamber@gmail.com. You can subscribe to us via YouTube, iTunes, or the various Android apps. Now, this is our New Year special, episode 208. What we're going to be doing is we're going to encourage you to make a Phantom resolution and read a couple of back issues. Now, what we've done is the team has recorded a review of their favourite story, or in some cases, stories. And we have got our wider audience and our wider Chronicle Chamber team, including Ankit from India and Duncan from Melbourne, and also Mikael Lyck from Sweden. So the idea of this is that hopefully it will encourage you to spend the new year to dig out some back issues, reread some classics, or some stories that got you hooked on the Phantom, or maybe even find a story that you've never read before and have a bit of a read of that. So hopefully you enjoy, and we will kick off with Duncan. Over to you, buddy.
Hi, everyone. Duncan Munro. The guys at Expand the Phantom podcast and the Chronicle Chamber have asked some of us fans to suggest to their listeners some classics from the Phantom Chronicles that we recommend digging through your collection and picking up, or going and finding if you don't have them already in your collection. So I've gone and found... wrong one. I've gone and found an old story from Frew that came out first in the number 883. It's the Phantom, the Avenger, the story of the first Phantom. It was also in Fantomen 12, 1976. And it's by Han Lindstrom and art by Jaime Valve. Excellent, excellent story for a number of reasons. One of them is it is one of the first European stories that I read, and really got me involved in. Look at that fantastic artwork with those dark inks in there. This is a spectacular story. It's one of the first stories I read that was a European reprinted story, so the Egmont stories that were starting to get published by Frew. It was one of the first ones before I started collecting. It was one of the first older ones that I'd gone back and gotten. Fantastic cover there that really stands out. And just an amazing Phantom adventure. Number of reasons, as I said. Starts off with the kids asking the current Phantom to read them a story from the Chronicles, which is what we're looking at doing today anyway. And so he's gone back and said, well, I'm going to tell you a story about the first Phantom. And I really enjoy the stories because the Phantom has such a rich history and such a fantastic character. I like the stories that tell the tale between two panels of another story. And what this story, the Avenger, does is tell the story in between two of the panels of the For Those Who Came In Late start for the Phantom story that we've seen in so many stories and in so many of their Falk dailies and Sundays. And between when he gets nursed to health by friendly pygmies and then becomes the nemesis of evildoers everywhere, this happens. This is the thing that happens in between. So that's why I think it's fantastic. It's really cinematic, and if any Phantom story ever screamed out to be turned into a film by itself, it is this story. Because, like Stan Lee said, every comic is somebody's first. So you want to be able to back capture what the essence of the character is. This story does it. You want to have some cinematic action. This story's got it. There's sword fights, fist fights, riding on horseback, sailing ships, ambushing each other at sea, fighting in storms. The Phantom gets trained, goes away. Without spoiling it too much, we find out that the Phantom gets washed up on a beach. Spoilers. He finds the skull of the body of his father's murderer. He swears the oath. It goes through the origins of so many bits of Phantom history, how the skull throne got carved, where the costume came from, the start of the Phantom treasure, and where he got all his training from. And so he goes away, tracks down the guy who killed his father and tries the Inigo Montoya and fails, and goes away to lick his wounds and says, well, I can either rest on my laurels with that, or I can really stand by the oath that I've just made and committed the next 20 generations of my family to. So he goes away and uses everyone in the jungle to train him. And so he goes to the Maori, who are better fishermen, and gets them to train him. And he goes to fishermen and divers and swimmers, so he gets them to train him. And he goes to the Ungan, who are better spear throwers, and he goes to and learns how to use accuracy and do that. And he goes to the Bandar, who are the better archers, and learns how to learn archery from them and learns the ways of doing it properly. With thousands and thousands of generations of history behind them, he takes advantage of that training. This story is so good, Frew could barely fit it into one comic. They've printed on the back page to make sure they fit it all in. Don't pause and look at that, you'll spoil the ending. For those of you who have read this story before, stop listening to the podcast and go right now and find it and read it again. For those of you who haven't found it or have, go and find it. Go and look it up on eBay, find it from the fantomcomic.com.au, find it from a collector who's got 7,000 copies and trying to get rid of them, or if you've got a young reader in your family or in your life that you're trying to get into the Phantom, this is a fantastic story to start them on because it explains the history of the Phantom. It has great art, it has great writing, very cinematic, fantastic adventure. Do yourself a favour. Thanks, everyone.
Mikael here for this special New Year's resolution review of Fantomen. I have chosen a story that's very dear to me from 2000 in issue 21. It's Phantom vs. Sing 2050. I chose this one because I think it's really cool and I thought it was amazing when I first read it over 20 years ago. I just start off with saying spoiler alert. I will go through the story all the way to the end, so if you don't want to know, then just skip ahead a few minutes. It's written by Claes Remarti and art by Hasse Lindahl, and it starts out in the beginning of 2000 with this ship that gets boarded by pirates, and our current Phantom, the 21st, find the guy, and he's very sick now. He has cancer, so the Phantom just leaves him to his destiny, basically. And that's the prelude. And then we jump 50 years to the future, or 30 years in the future from now, to 2050, where there is a big space station called Gaia that is orbiting the Earth, and the current Phantom is the 23rd Phantom. He rides this blimp, and then he takes he finds this girl he saves that is working for an organization that works with terrorists, and then takes the train to Venice, and Venice is now underwater. He finds this terrorists that are planning to basically make an explosion to the dome so it will implode underwater and kill many people, and he's towards it, and he finds out that these bad guys are up in the space stations. He has to go there, and sooner or later he will find the real menace behind everything, and that is Dogai Singh. Here it is. Now he's back in Bengala, and that's cool. Even though it's a science fiction story that takes place in space and in underwater cities, he comes back to Bengala in Morristown, where they have this park where they have all these genetic animals. Here is Dogai. And what has happened is that he tells the Phantom that he has been in cryosleep for 40 years. And this is one of the things I think is really cool, because let's see here, 15 years after this story was printed, Team Fantomen actually put the guy in cryosleep, so this one would make sense. Let's just see if if Venice is underwater in 30 years or not. But I think that's so cool, and actually it was one of the first Frew issues I got, because I love the story so much. Thank you, that's all from me. Happy Fantoming.
Hello and welcome to a new year review. We're gonna go up to, and like the rest of the guys, I'm gonna talk about my favorite story, which I would encourage you to go and read it and find it out for yourself, and basically relive what I felt. This is the Hanta Witch, and it's the 91st daily story from Lee Falk and Cy Barry. This is in the early 60s, so it's like Lee Falk and Cy Barry's initial collaboration, so they are literally like at their peak right now. And I remember reading this story first in Bengali years ago when I was a kid, and it was one of my first ever Phantom comics, and it was the Diamond Comics Digest number 11, and it had the founding of the Jungle Patrol and this story, the Hanta Witch. The founding of the Jungle Patrol, as many of you know, is a classic, and in spite of that, this was the story I gravitated towards. So it should tell you like what kind of impact it had. And even now, when I talk about daily stories, I think this is still by far my absolute favorite daily story that has ever been published. So yeah, let's get on to it. So the basic premise of this story and why I love this story so much is because it's a very, very moody story, and most people know that I simply love dark horror, stuff like thrillers and mysterious elements and all of that, and this one really delivers all of it in spades. So the basic premise is about there being an ancient curse, supposedly, in a old little ruin called the Hanta ruins, where supposedly at one point of time there was a witch inhabited it, and she would take tribute from all the visiting caravans and terrorize them, and and supposedly that curse lived on, and supposedly the spirit of that witch is still living in those ruins, which is avoided by everyone from the jungle folk. Except the Phantom. So the Phantom wants to investigate, and he hears about his own ancestor who supposedly confronted the witch, and so he reads his chronicles, and he does come across a very interesting story. Now here's one point I would like to bring out. A lot of people talk about the Phantom code and not killing and all of it, but if you see this story, there is a clear indication that he's probably killed a lot of people, especially in the sword fights and everything, and in this panel itself, using my trusty flintlock. So he's shooting this guy. So yeah, anyway, and it's absolutely justifiable, because back in the day when you're having a sword fight, I don't think you can knock like 8, 9, 10 guys out by using your sword while they are like literally trying to kill you. You need to land some blows with the sword, and I'm guessing a lot of them will be fatal to take them out. So yeah, anyway, so a thing like that happens, and the ancestor story reads on, but the mystery is unsolved because the Phantom finds out that the last page of that chronicle is torn. So he's back to square one. So he goes himself to investigate, and of all weird things, he does feel the presence of something unnatural out there, and does see something like really grotesque, confronted by the witch. And so yeah, I don't want to give away the spoiler. I want you guys to go and read this story, because it had such a huge impact on me that even when I was starting to do my own artwork and all, and I was contemplating about doing colors for black and white, this was the story that I kind of tested my own coloring skills on later, and that is because it has such a huge impact on me. This is a great story. It works so cinematically. It has all the things that you would want in a Phantom story: the intrigue, the build up, the suspense, and then how the resolution comes. And it's really well written. There is no it's very well resolved. It's very well paced up. The flow is excellent. So the best way to read this story would be right now is to get hold of the complete newspaper daily collection by Hermes Press, and this is volume 19. I don't see any other way unless you have the English Diamond Comics 11. That's the only one I remember. The others you can check in Phantom Wiki, where this story has been published or will be published soon. So yeah, go check it out.
G'day, for the first story I am going to be reviewing Frew issue 867A, which was all the way back in 1986. It has been published in 6 countries, including Denmark, Finland, Italy, Norway, and Sweden. Last time it was published in Sweden was 2002, and it was recently published in Finland in 2011 and Italy in 2009. So this is a true back issue in the sense that it has not seen print anywhere in the world for 10 years. This should come back. As you can see, my copy is very tatty, and the reason for that is because when I first read this, I reread it, I reread it, I reread it. It was one of the first back issues I ever got. I had to buy and pay like $10, $12 off someone because it was his favourite story as well. And then I remember buying it and I said, I have to have that. So this issue has a lot of good memories for me. Now, it's a 3-part story called, part 1 is The Red Staff, part 2 is called Tiger General, and part 3 is The Final Battle. It is all written by Ida Carell and Hans Lindell. Now, it features the Singh Brotherhood, which in my opinion are a great bunch of bad guys, and I like this because they're kind of like a new element that we've never seen before. You've got Phantom, you've got amazing artwork by Hans Lindell. I like the fact that seeing it's a 3-part issue, you're able to, what would you call it, go into a little bit more detail. And the writer and Hans Lindell do it in spades. They talk about the triads. They talk about, you know, what do you call it, the Sicilian Mafia, the triads, the Qing Dynasty, all those type of elements which are very popular. You got ninjas. You've got you know, you got a little bit of fun here from the Phantom. You know, putting a knife in his back. You know, playing up the fact that he's a ghost and stuff like that. I love elements like that. You know, it's you know, the Phantom doing hidden passages, tunnels and stuff like that, being knocked out. There's one for Steve, being knocked out behind the back of their head. You know, the Phantom only warns once. You know, just, you got all these elements that are just amazing. Great feats of strength. You know, something like this again would be good for like a movie or something. You know, you got him fighting ninjas here. Katana, I remember reading this for the first time and learning about all the ninjas and just being enthralled with it. It's just amazing, just being able to, how he defeats the ninja. Then you've got part 2, it's just the Tiger General, and he has to start all over again. You've got, you've got Chang, who's, what's his name? Chu Chan, who is a friend of the Phantoms, who's in various stories as well. You know, you could quite easily, if I had to say something, this needs to be published as a trade paperback. Whether you get someone to recolor it, or it could be the Chu Chang issues, or you could be putting all of these type of stories. But you know, I like this guy here, this monk, who I won't give it away, but he is very pivotal throughout the story. He's a great character, and I did not pick that up. I did not pick the twist with him when I first read it. You know, I think this dude here, I think he may be someone, but I'm not 100% sure. Look, I'm only at page 48 so far, and I've been flicking through it, and it's about 4 minutes already. Now he's battling crocodiles. It's just one twist after another. This guy's popped up again. It's a great story. This guy is fat, horrible, and no mercy. Typical awesome bad guy. You got Thai boxing. What is there not in this story that makes this story? Probably the only thing that's missing is a romantic element. That's the only thing that is missing in this story. But it's got everything else. It's got this despicable bad guy now hiding behind women. And look, it's going to be, it's hard to pick up this issue because it is, you know, it's like a 25, probably about, oh no, sorry, a 30-year-old issue. It's going to be a special issue. But if you've not got this comic, dig it out, Have a read. You will enjoy and you will not be disappointed. Frew, if you're listening, please, 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 let's get this republished. Thank you, and over to the next person.
G'day everyone, Dan from Chronicle Chamber here, and as part of our New Year's resolution to pick up and read an old favourite Phantom comic, I've gone for Frew number 765. 765 is a copy of The Ghost Pirates for Team Fantomen story from 1983. I've gone for 765 because not only was that the first time that Ghost Pirates was published by Frew, it actually remains the only time this story has been published by Frew. So if you want to get a copy or read The Ghost Pirates, you need to duck back and find this one in your collection or on eBay if you can. It is an absolute ripper of a story. Norman Werker is the author, picked up about a dozen Best Story Awards across his career working for Team Fantomen, over 120 stories that he wrote, 12 of them as best stories. This is not one of them, but in my opinion should have been. And Jamie Belvay on the arts, and he likewise had a long career with Team Fantomen. They're both giants in the field there, and likewise has a bunch of stories. Pick up awards, again, not this one, but as an example of the two of them coming together and producing some sensational artwork and stories. You can see there the use of blacks, the rendition of ships that Jamie has been able to put together. Classic story begins in the in the major treasure room, and leads to a story in the Chronicles, which is a trope that Team Fantomen use quite a lot, and it's done really well here, in my opinion. It tells the story of the 12th Phantom riding to meet up with his wife and child, who is away at school, as is the want of Phantom children, and it does take a little while to get going, I suppose. There's a lot of talk, but then the action that dispersed through it. Look at that. I remember that rabbit from when I was a kid, and just marvelling at the artwork that Valve has put together there. Yeah, so the Phantom then goes and finds this out about this particular bad guy, the Scarecrow, who is leading a bunch of smugglers who are luring ships onto rocks with fake lighthouses and all that sort of stuff, which really appealed to me as a young fella at the time who was reading Famous Five and Secret Seven and these sorts of books as well, to do with smugglers and tunnels and secret passageways and all that sort of stuff. So lots of action in this story, even though there's it doesn't get bogged down in historical detail, which I think is often a criticism of Team Fantomen. It's all plot devices, which is fantastic. No politics or anything like that, just a historical story set in a historical setting. The Scarecrow, he is a particularly bad guy, as you can see here when he's captured Mrs. Walker, and is sending them off, and Kit Walker's in there as well, sending them over a cliff. I also really love that the 13th Phantom to be, Kit Jr., plays a major role in this story, and it's a really good way of seeing that the Phantoms are adventurers from a very young age. Obviously, the Phantom wins the day. I mean, it wouldn't be a proper story if he didn't, but I'm not going to go into too much detail about how that happens, because I would really love you if you to pick up a copy of this yourself. It was set up ready for sequels and that sort of thing, only one of which was ever made, and that was The Revenge of the Shipwreckers in issue 1347, published in 1347 by Frew. Klaus Ramethi took over the reins and wrote the sequel, and Dick Giordano actually is the artist for this one. So again, a really cool feature. You can pick this one up. I think it was published in 2003, so set a year after Ghost Pirates, but published about 20 years later. Funnily enough, the Scarecrow does also appear on one of the Phantoms Universe cards produced by Frew, card 53, if you want to dig that out of your collection. First appearance, 765, there we are. And look, maybe Dudley, if you're listening, or Glenn, would love to see these packaged up as a double issue, maybe with an extra sequel or something, because there's certainly plot holes that are yet to be explored, or ways that you could go with this. But anyway, if nothing else, boys at Frew, I'd love to see you reproduce this one so that people of 2020, the 2020s can have a look at this absolute ripper story. All right, thanks very much, everybody. Hope you have a happy new year and enjoy all the fantoming you get to do in 2022.
G'day everyone, and welcome to Steve's back issue review for Chronicle Chamber. Now, I've chosen this issue, which is Frew number 1043, White as Snow, Red as Blood, for the simple reason as this was the first comic that I purchased with my own money from the newsagents. Before this, I'd been given comics from a family friend, but this is the first one that I actually bought with my own money, so I thought I'd go back and check it out and see if it still stands up today. So, White as Snow, Red as Blood was written, like I said, was from Frew 1043, which is published in 20th of May 1993, which would have been just after my 13th birthday. It was written by Leonard Moberg, and artist was Felmang, as you'll see as we go through the issue. Okay, now of course up here on the cover, you can see straight away that it's going to be a circus adventure. We've got the half face. We've seen that done before with the Fantomen Kit Walker. Worldwide, there's a famous one with Spider-Man and Peter Parker, and we see a circus tent. So we know this is going to be a circus story. So will it be good? We'll soon find out. Now, I read this for the first time in about 30 years, since 1993. Now, this book this story has been republished back in 2011 in Frew 1607, but Frew 1607 and 1608 are actually two issues that I don't have, I've just discovered. So I really have not read this story for nearly 30 years. Now, it is a product of the time, 1993. A lot of drug stories were coming out from the Scandinavian publisher, and this is one of those. As you can see, it's set in Morristown, and we start off with a hit. The gangsters are after this fellow who's running away, and then we're on to the police, and we soon find out there's a drug run, or a drug syndicate that's causing all these crimes. The Phantom does the old walking in the street like what's it say? There are some occasions when the Phantom leaves the jungle and walks the streets like an ordinary man. Okay, something that's really good about this comic is, even though there's very little bits about the jungle, which is what I was going to do with my comic review, do a traditional jungle story, but I end up with this one. However, there's a lot of good Phantom elements. There are a lot of jungle stories in here, as you'll see. And there are also some instances where the Phantom's jungle instincts play a key role in him surviving. Okay, so by now we've been introduced to a number of characters. We've got the police over here. They tend to put a fair bit of focus on this fella and this fella, so we reckon that maybe they're going to come up in the story later on. And of course we've got the Phantom. And we've got another person running away, just like the opening scene, and he's being shot in the back again. But this time they've got witnesses. We've got the Phantom, and he knocks him out, and that starts off the chain of events that gets the Phantom involved. And he's been told a name, which is very important. The name Torsen. Now, it doesn't take a brainiac or a rocket scientist to figure out that, the name's Torsen. If we go back and we read about these police, they see that we're talking about what's got into Nestor and Torsen, Torsen, Nestor. It's just a change up of the letters. Okay, and here we have another jungle saying. When the Phantom moves, lightning stands still. So here's the Phantom taking on half a dozen armed goons, and he not only has he dodged the bullets, he's shot the guns out of their hands, and he's knocked out the bad guys, or he's letting them have it, until, of course, he's trying to get some information from one of them, and we've got the dreaded brick to the back of the head. But it doesn't knock him out completely, just knocks him down, which I'm happy about. But the bad guys get away, and we're told about Torsen. We got Torsen again. He's looking shifty. We know it's not going to win any prizes for its plot twists. Okay, it's fairly obvious who the bad guy is, but how's it all going to be pieced together? Now, I'll let you read that and figure out how it all gets tied up. However, just looking at this in the last couple of pages that I've been turning, look at the artwork. Thelmag's artwork is at its prime here. It is absolutely phenomenal. His line work, his use of shade. I'm not sure if this was originally done in colour over in Scandinavia, but it works really well in the black and white in Australia. Okay. Is that a throwback to the bad ones, the Lee Falk story with the striped cap? The circus scenes are absolutely exquisite, absolutely amazing. The attention to detail in the circus scenes is extraordinary. And this art really does draw you in. I'm trying to go through fairly quickly so you're not actually reading the story, but you're getting a nice overview. I like this scene where the Phantom hops onto the back of the car, and there's a little bit of banter between the bad guys, and I had a little bit of a chuckle at that. Of course, the Phantom gets caught here. Bang. He does all right until the dreaded baseball bat or the club to the back of the head. So we're up to 2 now. 2 back of the head knocks. We've got him thrown into the tiger. Now, I liked his tiger work here. I thought the art here with the tiger was extraordinary. He's gotten through it, of course, and it even harks back to the old jungle saying, actually Phantom refers to it now, that was close. The old jungle saying about the 10 tigers, I don't think I'd like to put that to the test. These little throwbacks I thought were a great touch. And we keep going through, as you can see, the artwork, the attention to detail is phenomenal. It always astounds me the way artists work, even in this, back here, nearly 30 years ago, to art that we see today. You guys are phenomenal. Well done. And the way that the Phantom gets through this, you can just imagine it like you see it on TV, or actually see it in live. The Phantom's dressed up as a clown. He's doing away with the bad guys and making a show of it, and playing up to the audience. It was good fun. And of course, the Phantom gets, Nestor gets his just comeuppance at the end. We got a little bit more of the, Phantom had to dodge some more bullets. Bang, 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 all wrapped up. And also like to look at the old letters here in the old Phantom forum, just to see if there's any names that I recognise from 30 years on now. This name rang a bell. Richard Fry got a letter published here in the Phantom forum, and he was asking about why there are differences, particularly in the names of stories. And Jim Shepard replies that his story, or Frew, always tries its absolute best to go for the original title. Okay, so saying that Richard was noticing the difference between Wolf and Australia, and Jim was replying that Australia is doing the more original stuff, trying to get it as close as possible to the original Scandinavian, and also mentions how a lot of stories are written in English and then translated into Scandinavian, and which are then translated back to English for Frew, which we've covered on the podcast as well. And that wraps up this issue of 1043, White as Snow, Red as Blood. Of course, white as snow, we could be talking about cocaine, or it could be heroin, anything that comes in a white powder. Red as blood, there was a fair bit of killing going on in there. I skipped over it fairly quickly, but there was at least 2 murders there at the start, and then the big boss doesn't take disloyalty lightly either. So it's a few bad guys that get going there. It's just a good, fun read. It's exciting. You know it's going to be wrapped up. You know who the bad guys are fairly quickly. Like I said, there's no real plot twists. But it's just a fun little, doesn't matter what's happening in the world. You can forget about your troubles and watch the Phantom beat up some drug runners. I wouldn't say it's a classic issue or classic story, but it was a good, fun issue. I'm glad that this was my first issue that I bought with my own money. I've bought plenty more now, but this was number one. So if you're looking for something which is a bit of fun, something you don't have to think too hard about what's going on, and a great example of extraordinary art by Falk at the top of his powers, go and check out Frew number 1043, White as Snow, Red as Blood. Or go check out Frew 1607, which I'm sure is exactly the same, because it's the same story, and it might be in better nick. Okay, all the best. Happy Fantoming. Hope you have a very merry Fantoming Christmas and a very Fantoming New Year.
Hi guys, and welcome to another New Year recommendation review from the Chronicle Chamber. And I want to talk about the DC Phantom, the second series of 1989, which was written by Mark Verheiden, and the art was by Luke McDonnell. This is the first story which was run over the first two issues, which was called Guns. So one of the reasons why I wanted to include this is, like, a lot of people have different flavors of the Phantom. A lot of people like him in like the classic strip base. Like, I personally, because I have also got a huge thing about, you know, the American general comics of that era, the 90s and all those early 80s, and also it's a lot more different to me for, like, you know, it's got all the drama, the action. It's just different. It's not like a daily strip or a Sunday strip. The pacing is different, and it's much more darker and gritty. So yeah, the DC Phantom delivers this story especially, and for those especially, I would recommend this. The best way to read this right now is, you know, Hermes has just started reprinting the complete DC volume, and it's in volume 1. It's the last two stories of volume 1. So yeah, you get this. So yeah, one of the things I would like to say is, again, this is not like your typical daily strip or Sunday strip style story. This is pure American flavor, the comics of that era. So it's closer to, like, you know, the superheroes and this and that and the crime. It's very, very grounded to reality. There is very little romanticism. It's got a cynical view and everything, but the action, the pacing, all of it just like is right on. Like, it's never going, it's a thing like, you know, gun runners and all of that is never going to be like something which is going to be a soft. So it's like gritty and got really, really mature themes that it contains. It doesn't shy of, you know, showing dead bodies and things like that. There is proper, like, you know, like the basic story premise is that, you know, that some British gun runner is basically coming in to supply guns to, you know, Bengala, which is, like, of course, like a war torn, like a civil war is still happening around in an African area. So things like that, and takes a toll on human life, and that's how it always is. And since they want to run their guns, they go to the villages and this and that. They try to make their own, like, supply chain the illegal way, and of course the Phantom starts interfering. Now nobody, like, of course these guys, they are not from the jungle. They don't believe of the existence of the Phantom, so they set up, you know, traps and things like that. And this story, as usual, runs over two issues, and, you know, how the Phantom, like, it's really cinematic in a way also, and it's gritty, dark. The art is really well done, heavy use of shadows when required, and the payoff is also great. So there is a lot of, like, really good stuff in this if you have the stomach for it. And so just to be, like, you know, be clear that these stories are very much not like the daily strips and all. They are what you would expect, you know, the DC comics of that era, when Batman and all were just starting to get in that dark phase, and all of it, just like, you know, stories like The Dark Knight Rises and all of that have come up, and what you would expect in the real world, which is, like, absolutely unforgiving and very cynical. That's what it is. Phantom is trying to bring justice and law and order in a completely lawless situation, where big and gun runners, drug smugglers, and all of them are trying to take advantage of fledgling nations in Africa and all of that. So these are very, very like very serious stories, very serious, very action packed. So all of it. So yeah, go check them out. Best ways, like if you want to read them in singles, is to get it from someone who has these in singles, or another way is just get the complete DC. So yeah, guns, check it out.
G'day. So for my second comic that I'm going to be reviewing, I am going to be reviewing the founding of the Jungle Patrol, which is written by Lee Falk and drawn by Cy Barry. Now, we'll just hop over to Phantom Wiki. It was in newspapers from July the 5th, 1964 to January 24th of 1965. It has been published in 30 countries from around the world. So if you are an Australian reader and you are looking at this for a back issue, you can go back to 2013, which is Frew issue 1653, or 2001, which is Frew issue 1291. And then for all the oldies, you can go to Frew 885, which is from 1987, or 670, which is 1979. We've got a few Brazilian fans, so hello, you guys. You can dig it out from the old Brazilian issues from 1979, 1975, and 1965. And for our Sweden fans, for our Indian fans, let's go with them. All those individual fans, issue 26. It's been in Randy Comics, and also is a Diamond Comics Digest number 73 as well. So, and then for our Swedish fans, it has recently been published in Fantomen number 13 issue from the year 2001, and before then in 2016 and 2002. So we'll go back to the story and we'll talk about why I like this story so much. Okay, so first of all, the art is amazing. In my opinion, the 60s and the 70s is where Cy Barry was at his peak. The 80s, he was still knocking out the park. 90s, you can tell that it was starting to get to him. And you can listen to a lot about Cy Barry, from Cy Barry and his opinions and stuff like that from our podcasts. But getting back to this, I like the use of the big panels, as you can see here, then the little small panels. Now, I like stories that explain things and put answers to things. So this was the first time that the Jungle Patrol was ever really kind of explored. We kind of knew about the Jungle Patrol. We knew that the Phantom was an unknown commander, but now in this one, we learn out that the first Jungle Patrol actually knew who the commander was, i.e. the Phantom. And then as you can see here, you've got 1664. It's just, it's just amazing. It goes over all the lore elements like, the tunnel, who it is, where it is, even the 21st Phantom didn't know who it was. And then you just go through and straight away you're introduced to amazing characters like Redbeard's, he's the he's big, he's tall, he's robust, he's cutthroat, you kill someone because they question him. So it's just like the ultimate bad guy. He's just awesome. And then I loved the bit where he has to go through and fight all of the other guys before he can get to Redbeard. It's just, it was fun. And in a couple of Phantom stories, there was one from Carrie Lepinem and Norman Walker, I believe, where the 21st Phantom actually had to mirror fighting modern day pirates using the same alternatives, and there was flashbacks with this as well. So that's I think it was the Pirate Inheritance. That's an awesome story to dig out as well. So it beats Sala, and then he goes through, and And I just like little one-liners as well, like where is it? You know, so like for instance, where Crusher's doing eggs, and then the Phantom say, "Oh, let's do coconuts," and and then Redbeard, as you can see here, he goes, "Stop! You are fighting each other, not coconuts. Get on with it." It's it's just really enjoyable. It's funny. It's got the one-liners. And then the other thing I liked about it is just that, it's a classic. If ever a TV series of the Phantom was made, this would have to be an episode, just because it's so iconic. And then, this bit here, where does it say? So, she was a beauty, well worth the loss of a sword. Like, seriously, you cannot say something like that today. But it's iconic. Lee Falk's at his best in this as well. And then I like the fact that you've got, any good action movie, you've got lots of action, you've got likable bad guys, and then you got the romance elements. It's all there. It is all there. And then Redbeard becomes fun. He becomes cool. He becomes a good guy. It's just, it is a very iconic story. If you have never read this, make sure you dig it out and read it. I like the fact how, in here, the band are going, "Fool! Why did he not marry the beautiful queen? She wanted him." And it's just, we all know that the Phantom is all Phantoms are a little bit slow when it comes to trying to, pop the question. So it was really good. And then even in here, when the when the new Jungle Patrol are using direct methods to raise funds, like, "Do as I ask, my men will sack your town and I will break your neck." And it's like, they're there to raise funds for that not to happen, but he threatens them with exactly what will happen if they don't sponsor them. It's ironic. It's fun. It's one of my favorite stories. I love Redbeard as a character. I love the Jungle Patrol. I personally think that the Jungle Patrol is an underused element in the Phantom world. And so it's got all the elements for me. It's really enjoyable. I like this queen. I thought she's in this story, Lee Falk, which I've been critical of in the past, of not developing secondary or third level characters. He has done that well with Queen Natalia, done that with Redbeard and Crusher and all that type of stories as well. So in my opinion, he really put in a lot of effort writing this story. So hats off, or a tip of a hat to Lee Falk in this. Cybarri's art is amazing, especially in the Team Fantomen issue that came out this year. There was a nice rendition as well. I like this in colour. I don't have a colour version of it at the moment. And then I like this little bit signing off here as well. "Bill, you never did tell me who started the patrol." "Honey, nobody knows. Probably a bunch of crooks." Classic. Awesome. So that's my story for that one. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you dig it out and have it a read. Alrighty. Thank you, everyone, for those who participated and gave us their review of their comics. Now, I hope you enjoyed that. As you know, we regularly review new comics. So I thought it was nice to be able to kind of once in a while, or, it's been a good period of time since we've reviewed older stories. So let us know on social media what you think. Did you like the idea? Have you gone out and read the story? If you have dug out one of these issues of and there's half a dozen comics and stories that we've reviewed and talked about, why don't you take a photo of yourself reading the comic and stick it up on our social media, on the Phantom Collector, or if there's another story that you think we should have reviewed, make sure you let us know that as well. So again, our website is chroniclechamber.com. Our email is chroniclechamber@gmail.com. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, or the various apps like Podbean, not Podbean, Player FM, Castbox, Listen Notes, or you can, of course, watch us on YouTube. So happy reading, happy Fantasma, and have a safe new year.
He said, I'm mad, I must eradicate piracy, injustice and cruelty, and all my sons will follow me, so evildoers will believe that this man cannot die. The Phantom, the ghost who walks. The Phantom, enemies beware, the Phantom's always there, but you won't find the Phantom. He fights